evening all. I am Dr. Ritu Garg, Professor and Head, Department of Microbiology, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, State Institute of Medical Sciences, Mohali. I welcome you all to the session of basic course in biomedical research. In today's session, I will give you an overview about the qualitative research methods. So, in the overview of this session, I will discuss about what is qualitative research, what is the difference between qualitative research and quantitative research, when to use qualitative research methods, what are the various methods used in qualitative research, and how to do the qualitative data analysis, and how to use qualitative research methods. What do you mean by triangulations? So in the paradigm of health research, the research methods are of two types, qualitative research and quantitative research. So there is a common quote given by the Albert Einstein that not everything that counts can be counted. So what is qualitative research? It is generally includes data in the form of words rather than numbers. Then how we can compare the qualitative research methods from the quantitative research methods? Qualitative research methods, they deals with the data or the deals with the words or the text, while the quantitative research methods, they deals with the numbers. And interpretation of social reality is more from the participant point of view and their experience in case of qualitative research, which is known as amic perspectives. While in case of quantitative research method, interpretation of social reality is more from the investigator's experience. We call it ethic perspectives. In case of qualitative research, logic of inquiry is inductive, that is understanding of social processes, they are derived from the data. But the logic of inquiry is deductive in case of quantitative research method, that is testing the formal hypothesis. And in case of qualitative research method, it is the dealing of the credibility of the response of the participants and also the credibility of the investigators. But in the quantitative research method, it deals with the reproducibility, means when the another investigator wants to study the same problem, there is expectation of the same results. So when we can use the qualitative research methods? Qualitative research method can be used to view the social phenomena holistically, and it also provides the insight to why people behave in a certain way. It also helps to understand the result of a quantitative study, and this qualitative research method are used when the subject matter is unfamiliar or insufficiently researched. And it also gives us why, how, and under what circumstances events occur, and how it is used to for the exploration of the behavior of the participants, and also help us to seek the depth of the understanding. So what are the various methods of used in the qualitative research? They are in-depth interviews, there is focus group discussions, and there is participant observation. So I will deal each method in detail. First of all, I will take the in-depth interviews. In-depth interviews mean one-to-one conversation. In in-depth interviews, one-on-one conversation is held to learn about a user's experience, opinions, and the interest. It also helps us to understand individuals' experience in more detail. And although the in-depth interviews, there is open-ended questions and they are unstructured most of the time, but we can use an interview guide. Like interview guide is for the, there is a list of the topics which needs to be discussed in the research, or we want to take the information from the participants about certain topics. So for what kind of topics these in-depth interviews are held? These are held for the very, very highly sensitive subject matters, the subject matter which we want to talk, the person don't want to talk in front of the others. Like if the person if the research is on the family planning methods, or the sexual behaviors of the persons, or use of the drugs, or the use of the alcohol, these are the sensitive issues no one wants to talk about in front of the others. So in these types of issues, in-depth interviews can be helpful for the research purpose. And these in-depth interviews also used for for the knowledgeable persons. If the participants are more knowledgeable, and if the more subject matters are more complex, we can held the in-depth interviews. So in-depth interviews, what are the strength of this type of qualitative research method? If by this method we can seek the in-depth information about the topic from the participants, and the participants can conceptualize their behaviors. And what are the weaknesses of this culture of this research method? The results cannot be generalizable. Why we cannot generalize the results? Because these types of interviews, when we are taking the interviews of the participants, these types of qualitative research method, less number people, we use a less number of the people. They cannot be held for the large number of the people, because the time taken by the in-depth interviews are very large. It is sometimes 40 minutes, 50 minutes, or it may go up to the 1 hour. So in these long hours of the interviews, there is a certain large amount of data which can be gathered by the interviewer by taking the interview. So it is also become very difficult to analyze. And the most common drawback of this in-depth interview, weakness of this in-depth interview is time. It is very time consuming. So what kind of question you can expect from these types of qualitative research methods? Like the MCQ can be framed like this. A researcher decided to conduct a study of about the domestic abuse among homemakers in a village during the COVID-19 pandemic. Which of the following is an appropriate method to use for the data collection? So, like the domestic abuse among the homemaker is a very sensitive issue. No one wants to discuss this issue among the in front of the people. So, the most appropriate answer is here is a in-depth interview. This type of studies can be done by the qualitative research method, like the in-depth interviews. Another method is a focus group discussions. As the name is suggesting to us, group discussions. So here it is composed of the 6 to 8 individuals, and the discussion among the participants about the topics presented. So what kind of the individual we should select for to hold these group discussions? So these people should not know each other prior to the group discussion, and they should be like-minded people. There should be similarity in the social class. They should be similar in the age, or their level of knowledge should be same, or the cultural and ethnic characteristics should be same. So this kind of people we know, we call them the homogeneous member. And another question arises, for what kind of issues we can hold the focus group discussion? The mainly the social issues. For the social issues, we can discuss the focal group discussion, where the number of people wants to discuss the topic in the groups. Okay. So what are the there we here we require the three types of people who are needed to conduct the focus group discussion. They can be the recruiters, they can be the moderators, and they can be the note takers. Now what is the role and responsibilities of the recruiters here? The recruiters, they locate and invite the participants for the research to be conducted. Okay. And what are the roles and responsibilities of the moderator? They conduct the group discussion. They make sure the group discussions are going in a smooth manner. And what are the roles and responsibilities of the note taker? Note taker, they list the topics which are going to be discussed in the for the research purpose, and they note down the reactions of the group participants, and they ensure that the entire discussion is tape recorded, and they transcribe these tape discussions. Okay. And how we can use the group discussions, focal group discussions? The use is, it helps to identify the problems and define the goals. Suppose when the people are discussing in the groups, you can identify the problems, what types of problem they are discussed about, with they are discussing about. You can define your goals, and according to that, you can develop the interventions, how we can solve, which interventions can be used to solve these problems. Now another use can be, we can test the new ideas of the program, or we can improve the existing programs. And there is a generation of the range of ideas while the people are discussing among the groups. And what are the strength of this focal group discussion? There is a lot of information which can be gathered quickly at a less cost, and some of the people they usually feel comfortable in a focus group discussions. And what are the weaknesses of the focus group discussions? There is a less control over the flow of discussions in the group, and results are very harder to analyze because the 6 to 8 people are discussing the problems in a group, so we can gather a lots of information in a less point of the in a point of time. So it is very difficult to analyze the so much larger amount of the data, and notes taking is also becomes very difficult sometimes. And the results, we cannot generalize the results because in the group some people they are more dominating and as compared to the others, so we cannot generalize the results. Okay. And transcribing from tape recordings also very difficult and costly. So what kind of MCQ question we can expect from these types of focal group discussions method? Like a researcher decided to conduct a study to explore the child feeding practices among mother of under 5 children in a community. So which of the following qualitative techniques can the researcher employ to gather wide range of information on the topic in a short span of the time? This is a typical example of the group focal group discussion. So the most common appropriate answer is here is a focus group discussion. So next qualitative research method is a participant observation. Participant observation means the investigator becomes a part of the study. He becomes the participant, and here the investigator become an active, a functional member of the culture under the study. If the researcher is doing the study in a family health team or the community, he become the part of that team, that community or that family. And above all, the party in the participant observation, if people being observed are aware that the researcher about the researcher's presence in the community, or they know they are being observed by the researcher. So what are the strength of this type of qualitative research method? They help the researchers to learn how to formulate the appropriate and relevant question in the native language. Number one. Number two, these types of research method are useful when a context is new or not well known. And the third number is particularly they are useful at the beginning of the research when a problem is not well understood. There are certain weakness about this research method. They are very time consuming and difficult to take the notes. Why the note taking is very difficult in particular type of research method? Because when the investigator is a part of the study, he is not taking notes at that time when he is observing the people, but he takes the note after the observation is complete. So it is very difficult to recall such a large number of the information. So that is why it is very difficult to take the notes. So what kind of case scenario we can frame the MCQ about this particular type of method? Like a genie boarded her first cargo ship as she wanted to understand about how the shipping industry worked. Like here, the researcher want to know about the working of the shipping industry. She had doubts about the journey, but the seafarer, they knew that she was this genie who is a researcher. He or want to do the research on the shipping industry, and they welcome that researcher, and they helped her, took part in her interview, and gave her quality insight into the industry and the cargo ship. So it is a particular example where the investigator is a part of that journey, where or about that journey. She wants to know about that journey or that industry. And there is and the person who the seafarer, he know the genie who is a researcher is a part of that journey. So this is a particular example of the participant observation type of the qualitative research method. So after getting the data from any of the method, it can be in-depth interview, focus group discussion, or the participant observation. The next step is how to analyze this qualitative data. There are two most common methods which can be used to analyze this type of qualitative data. This is grounded theory and the content analysis. In the grounded theory, what we can do, we understand the data and develop the theories based on that data. And another method is content analysis. That content analysis is done based upon the theories which we have made as per the grounded theory. And this content analysis start with the theoretical framework, and we try to analyze the data to understand the theory. This is actually known as the content analysis. Okay. So next is how to use these qualitative research methods. The most common method, we use the qualitative research method as a tool to generate the ideas, or we can use a preliminary step in developing a quantitative study. So how we can understand this, how we can use this as a preliminary step, if a researcher wants to study the most common non-communicable disease in a particular area, and like a researcher wants to know what kind of non-communicable diseases are prevalent in this particular area, non-communicable diseases like diabetes, cancer, or the obesity. And after knowing these common diseases, he wants to know actually what is the prevalence of these diseases in this particular area, like what percentage of the people are affected with the diabetes, or what percentage of people are affected with the obesity or the cancer. So this is a typical example. Here the qualitative research method is used as a preliminary tool for the development of the quantitative study. Another use of qualitative research method is to help understand the result of a quantitative study. Like how we can understand this, like if a researcher wants to estimate the prevalence of exclusive breastfeeding in a remote rural population. Suppose researchers has done the study, had done the study and estimated the prevalence of exclusive breastfeeding in a remote rural area, and he had found he observed that the prevalence of explosive breastfeeding is very less in that particular area. Then he will do the qualitative study to understand the result, why this prevalence is less. So the researcher wants to understand the myth and taboos associated with the breastfeeding. Why the people are not doing the breastfeeding? What are the myths and taboos about it? So this is a example of the qualitative study. So like that it help us to understand the result of the quantitative study. Third, qualitative research method can be done along with the quantitative research. This is an example of mixed methodology, mixed research methodology. Like I'm giving the example. Suppose I had done the study on the introduction of case-based learning in microbiology at undergraduate level. Actually, I have introduced this new method to teach the undergraduate student microbiology, to teach the microbiology to the undergraduate student in the medical school. Earlier, we used to use the didactic lecture to teach microbiology to the undergraduate students. So, what I had done in this study, I have taken the perceptions of the students regarding regarding about the case-based learning. Then about 90% students opined that this method, because of this method, there is improvement in the communication skills. The retention of the topic is better than the didactic lectures, and they understand the applied aspect of the microbiology better than the didactic lectures. And this is a quantitative study. Then I have taken the feedback from the faculty also. I had given the open-ended question to the faculty, I had asked, like, is there any need to introduce a case-based learning along with the didactic lectures to teach undergraduate to teach microbiology at undergraduate level? If yes, what are the barriers and challenges, and how we can overcome these barriers and challenges? So this is a particular example of the mix of the quantitative research method and the quantitative research method. So next is triangulation. Why we need the triangulation for this research method? Actually, no single method, whether it is qualitative method or the quantitative method, they can give the perfect explanation of the topics to be researched. And when we are interpreting the data of any of the research method, there is a chances of the bias. To avoid all these problems, we should triangulate our research methodology. What does mean by triangulation? Actually, it is a use of multiple methods, multiple theories, and or multiple sources for a comprehensive understanding of the topic in the question. So there is many types of triangulation which can do. It can be data triangulation. Data triangulation means when there is a use of the multiple data sources, like we can use a multiple cases, multiple informants. And there is a methodological triangulation. Here we can use multiple research methods for a study to be done. And investigative triangulation, when more than one investigator can perform or conduct the study on a particular topic. In spite of these triangulation, there can be one theory triangulation where we can use the different perspectives to analyze the data. So these are the triangulation which can be used to understand comprehensive understanding of the topic. So this is all about the qualitative research methods. Now, what are the concluding notes of my today's session? Qualitative research method, they deals with the words, number one. Number two, qualitative methods which we use can be in-depth interviews, focus group discussions, participant observations, depending upon the topic to be researched. And how we can analyze the data, that can be analyzed by the grounded theory or the content analysis. And what are the use of the qualitative research method? They can be used to generate the ideas. They can be used to understand the results of the quantitative study, and they can be used as a mixed methodology. And our last one is we should template our research methodology for the comprehensive understanding of the topic. So this is all about my qualitative overview of the qualitative research method. Thank you.